Let the people rejoice who come to the Father through Yeshua, his Son, and give him thy glory. Great things he hath done. Baruch Hashem. Honestly, I'm going to say I'm very delighted. And I want to say it's not about the people, it's about Yahweh.
It is.
I'm coming to understand it
Baruch
more
Hashem.
recently that it's all about Yahweh.
Oh, mine, it is.
And that's one of the reasons I'm here today. I'm not going to spend more than 5 minutes because it's just a testimony I want to give. I made a vow to Yahweh right here on so many occasions. When the fellowship was praying for me, those days of sorrow, when no one could see my heart. I felt more bad when people say, oh, I understand how you feel. Nobody do. You can just have a glimpse of what you think, but only Yahweh knows my heart. Being alive here today, I can still remember the date very vividly, on 25th of August, and I decided I was going to take my life because of so many things that happened. And I was asking Yahweh so many questions. I remember bringing up the book of Jeremiah 29:11, and I was very upset. When I was reading it, it says, I know my thoughts for you, thoughts of peace, and I became upset. I said, I'm not seeing the peace. I'm not seeing the life. I'm not seeing it. What sort of a father would allow his son to go through all this? And I became upset. I threw away the Bible, and I said I was going to do it. I was going to end up everything. But like the last song we had, he said, you know better than I. I don't know the reason, but you know better than I. It was you that taught the bird how to fly. And that song is one of the songs that really touched me. Not just today, whenever I hear that song, I have it at home, Jordan will help me. And I listen to that song over and over again. We all knew how I came here first in December 2011 and how the journey began and everything that was happening, that has been happening. I made a vow to Yahweh. I said, Yahweh, it's all about you. If you let me get through this, if you let me get my life back, I'm going to stand here just like Jacob came in Bethel, and bless your name and tell the people that were here that have been there from the beginning that you are good, and to tell them that now I can understand the reason for so many things. I just couldn't hold it yesterday when I got the mail from my lawyer, a very positive reply, telling me that everything is over. And the lawyer was even crying on the phone. He was even crying because he couldn't understand those words. It was very emotional words. And I just couldn't wait because I said, Yahweh, you do it for me. I'm not going to tell it to anyone first until I stand here to testify, to bless your name, because it's all about you. It's not about anybody. You know, people might come and say, oh, I did this, I did that. Honestly, if Yahweh hasn't preserved my life, I can remember Rabbi saying to me, he said, if Yahweh says you're going to leave, you will leave. If Yahweh says you're not going to leave, you will leave. And Yahweh used everybody. When I say everybody, from Daddy, from little Josh, looking at him at times brings joy. You won't understand what it means to be depressed. When you're depressed, any little thing can bring you back. Any little thing, just small thing, can bring you back. Looking at him, smiling, can just bring you back, can just take back the spirits. Because I come to understand that depression and the spirit of fear and suicide, it's a spirit. It's a spirit. It overtakes you, comes in, and nothing makes sense to you. Nothing. You get more upset when you even hear things about the Bible. That's the truth. And just like Joseph said to his brother, he said, what you made bad for me, Yahweh has turned it to good. And that's what I'm standing here today to say. that what the devil has done back to you. You just can't explain it. You keep asking, is it Yahweh's plan? No, but he turns everything. He turns everything. Like the book of Samuel said that those that honor him, he will honor. I got so many advice from different people when I came to him, from different people when I met even lawyers, from different people. Don't do this, do this. Come, let me link you here. Just get married because of this. I had so many advice. I had someone who wanted to take me to the Chinese place where they read stars and so many things. But with the grace of Yahweh, I said, it's not for me. I prefer to get to the end with respect, with honoring Yahweh. And the last of it was when I was going through deciding if I was going to go with this new lawyer or the old lawyer. I met a friend who took me to a Jewish lawyer. His name is David Patel. Very strong lawyer. He has been a refugee advocate for so many years. I got into his office and he looked at me. I was wearing the Star of David. He asked, why are you wearing that? And I was surprised because I never knew he was a Jew. And I said, because I love Israel, because that's what I believe. And he said, what do you know? What do you know about Israel? What do you know about... Oh, I said to him that I'm a Torah believer. I speak the Torah. And right there, he just said, he asked me to recite the prayers for blessing the bread. Of course, I did that immediately, and I added that of the wine. You know, I love that so much. And he was so amazed. He was so surprised. He was like, he was asking me so many things. He went to the internet immediately. He typed, Jews in Nigeria, and so many things were coming up. And he said, I'm going to take your case. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this. And came back home. I said, yeah, what do you need to do? And after everything, Yahweh made me to understand that it's all about him. It's not about who would do it. It's about Yahweh. And I decided I was going to stick with the previous lawyer. I know he's not a Jew and nothing, but I said, Yahweh, I'm just looking up to you. Because I knew if I had gone with the new lawyer, my trust would have been in him rather than in Yahweh. Because he was so good, everything. Few weeks after I decided to move on with the old lawyer, the police arrested him, and about 7 charges of rape in his office. I don't know if it's true, I don't know if it's false, but the bone of contention is he wouldn't have had time to sort my case because he has a case in court, and it's a very serious case. And it was an internet and everywhere. And my psychologist ran me and said, because she wanted to give me money, she said, go, I will give you money. The lawyer said, don't worry about money, I'm going to take your case. And whenever, towards the end, you can pay me. So there was every positive sign for me to go on with him. But I asked myself, going on with this man, will you trust him? Or are you trusting him, or will you trust Yahweh? And I came to the conclusion it's all about him. Because I know he believed me. He had the connections. He was mentioning so many people. He was like, I'm going to refer you to this rabbi, get a letter from him, get this. I saw my case immediately, like, changing. But I said I was going to speak with Yahweh. I want to trust him. And he followed his hand and said, Rishi, you hear what's happening? I said, no. I even had Greg ringing me up. He said he picked up the newspaper, Sydney Herald, and the news was there because they all supported me to move on with me. And I said, everyone is really encouraging me to move on, but my heart, my spirit, still saying something different. So I just want to stick with Yahweh. I just want to stick with him instead of trusting him. And he was charged. He has 7 charges against him for male assault, and it was very, very hard to believe it. Number one, it's very hard to even believe that a Jew would be a gay. So that's my first. I was like, So I have a lot of reason to stand here today to bless Yahweh. And at the end of the day, Yahweh has decided to say that those that really trust in Him would never be disappointed. My hearing on the day of the interview, honestly, was so simple. was saving everything just for the testimony. The man didn't ask me so much, but he took the evidence. He has done his research and everything, and he said to me, I'm going to give you a very good decision. The case is so obvious. Everything is so clear. And I just want to thank the fellowship, thank Elder Casey for his wonderful letter, because all those things really helped, because the people that are looking into your case don't even know you. So they need so many things to help them to come to a conclusion about what they are thinking about you. And I got this letter from me, from so many people, and memories, from different people. And the Lord has said to me that I haven't seen any support. Anyone that has been supported the way you've been supported. I haven't seen people, anyone that has been trusted the way you are trusted. And he was there that day, but he didn't say much because the main member didn't have much to even ask. It was like he was okay. I never knew he did all the investigation that way. In fact, he did a lot of research, because when he gave me the results, I looked at everything, and the people, he contacted the people in my fellowship, he made some inquiries and everything. So I'm just here to bless Yahweh and to fulfill my vow. Just right here when the fellowship was coming together for me, I've come to understand why Jephthah had to make such vow. It's very weird. You ask yourself, what's the connection with this? He could have said, Yahweh, I'm going to offer 20 bullocks to you. Or he said, anything that comes out of my house. Because he was living in fear. When you're having problems, you don't even know when you make those vows, you don't even know how you say it. I was like, Yahweh, it's all about you. If you deliver me from here, I'm not going to speak to anyone about the result first. I'm going to come here and bless your name and speak before my brethren and say, Yahweh, you've done it. And that's why I'm here today. It doesn't matter about the seats. It's about Yahweh. And that's why his presence was here. It's about him. It's not about having thousands of people. It's about Yahweh. It's about your relationship with him. It's about what is he saying about you. That's the most important thing. That's what matters. Yes, it's very fun to have so many people to hear the testimony, which I'm going to come back. I'm going to come back and still do that, so people would hear it over and over again. But it's all about Yahweh. I said, I just can't wait. The result came at a very nice time. Because people will ask me, how is it going? So I'm very tempted. I can't say it's not going well, or I can't say I haven't heard anything yet when I've heard something. So this was my lawyer calling me around 5 o'clock. I was like, tomorrow is Shabbat. I was like, Yahweh, it's just tied up. So when I move out from here, I can start ringing people and say, thank you, Yahweh has done it. Yahweh has done it. So here's my first look before Yahweh, who I made the vow. I just want to bless his name again and say, thank you, Yahweh, for everything. Thank you, Yahweh, for saving my life with many times that I've decided to put my hand, showing me that it's all about me. Thank you, Chani. Thank you, Shabnam. Thank you, everyone, for the prayers. The most important thing was the prayers. That's the truth. Those prayers that were said, even in secret, I think that was the most happy prayer. It's not about being around there. It's not about the finance. Honestly, my problem was not money. It wasn't money. My problem wasn't money. My problem back home was not money. So people are doing support here, but it wasn't about that. It was about my life. It was about the prayers that were ushered, that were given to Yahweh. These prayers, Yahweh heard these prayers. I had so many people that said, how many are you in your fellowship? There are very few. Come to similar places, come to this place, you will have so many people that will support you. You need support. And I knew in my heart that it's about Yahweh. It's about being real. This is where I feel I'm connected. This is where everything I used to do, this is where I see the same thing. So why would I go there? Because I need help from there, because I want him to support me. I have someone who was in the same case. He had a Baptist pastor that went there with him to the day of the interview. And he was giving a negative decision. He went there with people from pastors, with reverend. He was giving a negative. They were there, they were speaking about him, they were saying, and the member said, I don't believe you. You just claim to be a Christian just to do this. So I don't believe you. Oh, this is being real. Yahweh knew it wasn't about them to support me. It wasn't about getting the letter. When I got the letter from Elder Casey, he did it willingly. Shabnam we're happy to do this. And I said, fine, I'm happy to get it. I never went to anybody and said, oh, I need this. Because I need my trust was in Yahweh. It was in Yahweh. I feel very overwhelmed here right now because this is where it all started, in this morning. And I want to say to you that Yahweh is here. Notwithstanding the party, notwithstanding the division, Yahweh is here. Where your heart is, that's where Yahweh is. And I want to encourage each and every one of us to not give up. The devil has really shaped the fellowship of listen. But I tell you that everything will definitely turn to the way Yahweh wants it. That's how I've come to understand it. I grieved so much, I cried so much when the split happened, because I never wanted it. Even till now, I don't enjoy it. But I said, Yahweh, it's all about you. You know how to turn everything to your glory, to people that honor you. That's all. So I just say we should all speak in Yahweh. Make sure we ensure that our relationship with Yahweh is intact. That's what matters so much. And definitely at the end, He will tell you, He will give you the reason. He will tell you why He has allowed all this to happen. Because He wants His name to be heard. He wants people to say, Baruch Hashem Yahweh, you've done it. I'm glad here today, to stand here today, to say, Yahweh, receive all the glory for giving me back my life. I know it's still some process, it's still going to take some process to get well, but I must say that Yahweh has done it. He has vindicated me. He has answered our prayers, the prayers of very few people here. Very few people, very few. To tell you that Yahweh is good. Yahweh knew what we were doing. Yahweh knew that these are His people, these are His chosen people. And He did it. He did it. And I'm very glad, and I think I'm going to stop here because Yahweh receive all glory. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much for everyone for the support, for prayers. George, thank you so much for this call. Your good messages. At times I just look at my phone, I don't want to take the call because I'm busy. Because I don't feel like talking to people. I'm not happy. I just look at it most times. And George will drop a message that is like a call. And when I listen to those messages, sometimes it's like 5 minutes. And those at times I remember on one occasion I was crying when I was listening to those messages. I was saying the right word at the right time. I was like, Lord was saying, you didn't want to pick the call, but this is the message for you. This is the message for you. The message is still coming back to you. I just bless Yahweh. She has taught me so much. My psychologist, when I met her, she doesn't believe in God. She doesn't believe in God. But she said, your life has really reassured you that there is God. That's what she said to me. She grew up in church. She gave up her faith. She made a lot of disappointments. So she went into Buddhism. And whenever I'm there, I still tell her. And I remember saying something. I said, the end, Yahweh will definitely vindicate me. And on so many occasions, she would call me up and she would say, your God is there. Your God is there. Especially in the case of that of the lawyer. She gave me the money. I said, give the money. I don't think I want to go with him. My spirit. I want to trust God. And I said, yes, I want to trust God. And she was the person who rang me up when she said the news. She was like, if you look at what happened, your intuitive is working. I said, it's not my intuition, it's God, it's Yahweh. It's Him that is doing it. He knew that there was a problem there. He was, don't go, my son. Don't go. And it would have been very bad for me because whenever, if the member picks up the case, it will be very bad because there's a bad image. He could think, oh, why did he move from this lawyer? Because there's something fishy. A little thing can just damage your case, can make you look horrible. So I just bless you have to get for yourself. I just can't say anything, but what I'm saying to all of us here is let's keep the faithful. Let's keep fighting. Even if it's just you, keep fighting. It's all about you. On that day, Yahweh is not going to ask us, how many do you have in your fellowship? He's not going to ask you how He's going to ask you what's relationship you have. Did you keep my words? Did you adhere to my words? This is what Yahweh is going to ask each and every one of us. Joshua is going to answer for himself that day. You would answer for yourself. My mom is going to answer for herself. I would answer for myself. It's an individual race on that day. That day, no matter how you love it, that day is going to stand before the master and speak for himself. You can only speak for him if you didn't do your work. That's when God is going to say you did not do your work. You didn't give him what you're supposed to give him. But apart from that, we all have to give account. So let's keep fighting ahead. I've come to understand it's not about this now, it's not about this, those era is gone. It's about Yahweh. Let's do it love. I was crying when Jason was praying, bringing everyone in prayers, praying even for people that are here and not here. That is love. That is love of Yahweh speaking. It's about him. So he knows how to do it. In the right time, he's going to bring so many people that will want to listen to him. I've been in places where we started like two. And at the end of the day, the whole house was full. We were coming there to worship Yahweh because it's all about his glory. I just can't stop talking, but I'm going to stop now. And so, Yahweh, thank you for giving me my life back. And thank you so much.
Amen.
I just want to thank Yahweh. I just want to praise Yahweh for Iffy and for his journey that he's still on with you, and that we've been able to be a part of that journey. I want to thank you and give you glory, give you praise, Father, for your persistence with us and your patience with us, and that you've shown us strength, you've shown us courage through Nathaniel, with what he initially had to deal with before he came out here, this terrible story. And we just thank you so much for his faith that he's held on, he's white-knuckled it all the way to this point. Thank you for all the people that have supported him in their prayers, supported him actively with money and so on and so forth. With every single thing, whatever it be, the smallest thing to the biggest thing, whatever it is, I give you thanks for all those people that have come forward. And may we continue to love one another and uphold one another before the Heavenly Father. And may we grow both in our love for one another and our love for Israel and our love for you. May we not fall down, may we not be despondent and be discouraged, but may we continue to move forward with the strength and the knowledge that you're going to win in the end. You're going to win in the end. And it's up to us whether we want to be a part of that or not. And I just give you thanks and give you all the glory today. In Yeshua's precious name, amen. Alright, let's have a break. Ladies and gentlemen. Yes, we can have a song of praise. It would be my pleasure to do a song of praise, guys. Probably it might be good. We're doing another song? The truth is coming clear. Thank you, Heavenly Father. Thank you so much, Father. Your power. And thank you, Father Yahweh, that you have what you've shown us. And you brought us to this point of time. Well, that was
Well, that is a very intense Sabbath that we're having today. Thank you, brother. I love it. I absolutely love it. I wish every Shabbat that we had was so filled with the presence of the Ruach that I feel it.
right now. It's just amazing. Let's just take a break, yeah? I think we should take a break.
Reese just said, what did I miss? I think she just got on, Baruch Hashem. What time is it? What's wrong, Sam? Hannah? Are you allowed to touch that? Alright, we'll get started.
And it's your
Yes,
first.
if she asks you.
Did you say yes?
Yeah. Just sit down and sit, and the seat is on you. So you can be with me. So now, I
All right, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Welcome, welcome Rose, welcome Iffy. Brother Jordana, wherever you are. Jaden, my beautiful wife. There's very few of us today, but as Brother Iffy has said, it's not about numbers. It's about Yahweh. And that's very true. I want to welcome those of you who might be listening on Ustream. I want to welcome Richard and Reed, who I know are listening. And wish you guys Shabbat Shalom. This week we are up to Acts chapter 15. Man, we are going through this book. And nothing's stopping us. Baruch Hashem. Every week we get through another chapter is a blessing and a privilege. It's a blessing because I can tell you there are not many congregations in Australia that are looking at this book with the depth that we are and the clarity that we are. In fact, there's probably a lot of congregations in Australia that are looking at the book from a very different perspective, to say the least. So if I could ask everybody to open up their Bibles to Ma'aseh HaShluchim, which is the mighty deeds of the Holy Apostles, otherwise known as the Book of Acts, to chapter 15. To chapter 15. The focus is continuing on Shaul, Rav Shaul, which the world calls the Apostle Paul, and Ben Navi, which the world calls Barnabas. And we have Shimon Kefa, who the world calls Peter, in this week's chapter, quite heavily mentioned. We have some other apostles. Finally we have Rabbi Silas, the author of this book, mentioned in the narrative as accompanying Shaul. This is the first time we have the author of the book being mentioned. Now we know that the book of Acts was not written by a Gentile called Luke. First thing to remember with the book of Acts, I don't care how many seminary degrees a particular individual has under his belt, or how impressive his speaking he may be, or where he trained or where he studied, the book of Acts and the book of Luke was not written by a Gentile doctor. It was written by the cousin of Rav Shaul, who the world calls the Apostle Paul, and he was a doctor, and he was an Orthodox rabbi, and he was one of the apostles, he was one of the sent ones, and both of his books, the book of Luke and the book of Acts, are addressed to Abiyahu, who is, or was rather, the high priest of the day. And these books are addressed to him in a manner that gives him a broad spectrum of the faith, of who we are. Why did he write these books to the high priest of the day? So that he'll know about the way, the one true way, and obviously he was interested. Because as we read in the book of Acts, even some of the priests were becoming obedient to the faith. And this is how we know it wasn't the formation of a church. There is no way in the world that ancient Judaism of the day would have accepted a foreign religion to incorporate their existing framework of how they ordered the structure and the workings and the halakha of their precious religion. They had already been occupied, they were already worn out by the Roman occupiers. There was just no way that they would accept a foreign religion to integrate within their own religion. So the original apostles were obedient Jews who were Torah observant, who were very orthodox. They would bless food, they would wash their hands, they would immerse regularly, they would do roughly all the things that the Pharisees would do. We know that in this chapter Pharisees are a definite part of our movement. Did you know that, Iffy? We had Pharisees in the early Nazarenes. We're about to read about it. They're already, in chapters past, they've already been referred to. We have Yaakov HaZadik, which is James the Just. He is the president or the chief Nasi of the Bet Din in Jerusalem. So he's the president of the Jerusalem Council. He's a Pharisee. He's a righteous man. And he gives a verdict in this week's chapter. And we have, see the problem is, it's not the Pharisees that don't accept us who want to kill us. Well, they are a problem, don't get me wrong. It's the ones that have joined the Nazarene sect, and they believe in King Messiah Yeshua, but they believe that you need to do other things as well as believe in him to be saved, and that's the issue we're going to deal with today. And it's very poignant because it's something that we've had to deal with in the past couple of months with this very congregation. And hey, we're going to get some ruling on it from Scripture, and we're going to see a similar situation that has arisen in the Scriptures. So, lo and behold, this is one of the reasons we're studying through the book of Acts, is because we're getting our grounding again, we're finding our feet. And so we're going back to basics. Well, they're not really basics, there's a lot of interesting stuff in here that's pretty heavy. But it's all fun, it's all interesting, and it's all relevant, and it's all Scripture. And it's Scripture from a Hebraic perspective. So, let's begin, shall we? Chapter 15, verse 1. But some men came down from Yehuda to Antioch and began to teach the brothers. You can't be saved unless you undergo the Brit Milah, the circumcision, in the manner prescribed by Moshe. This brought them into no small measure of discord and dispute with Shaul and Barnabas, some translations say. So the congregation assigned Shaul, Ben-Navi, and some of themselves to go and put this matter before the emissaries and the elders up in Jerusalem. After being sent off by the congregation, they made their way through Benicia and Shimron, recounting in detail how the Gentiles had turned to Elohim, and this news brought great joy to all the brothers. So on the way to go down and get this final ruling and get this matter sorted out, they're doing some more evangelizing, and they're going to check out how some congregations that were already established are doing, and they're bringing more people in on their way back. So they're not sort of focused on one task. They're very flexible, aren't they? And they're not sidetracked by any types of issues that otherwise might sidetrack people who may be a little bit double-minded and shaky. So these guys know their stuff. They're very strong. On arrival in Jerusalem, they were welcomed by the Messianic community, including the emissaries and the elders, and they reported what Elohim had done through them. But some of those who had come to trust were from the party of the Perushim, and they stood up and they said, "It is necessary to circumcise them and direct them to observe the Torah of Moshe." Now what's interesting about that is when they reported to them everything that Yahweh had done with the nations, there's no mention of them being overjoyed. That's problem number one. And instead, men stand up with a point of criticism. And we're going to look at this in detail, but I just thought we'd go through and we'd read it first, just as something different. Okay. But some of those who came to trust were from the party of the Perushim. So some of them who came to trust were from the party of the Pharisees, as I said. And they stood up and they said, "It is necessary to circumcise them," who? The Elohim fearers, the Goyim, "and direct them to observe the Torah of Moshe." The emissaries and the elders met to look into the matter. After lengthy debate, Kepha got up and he said, "Brothers, you yourselves know that a good while back Elohim chose me from among you to be the one whose mouth the Goyim, the Gentiles, should hear the message of the good news and come to trust. And that Elohim knows the heart, who knows the heart, bore them witness by giving the Ruach HaKodesh to them, just as he did to us. That is, he made no distinction between us and them, but cleansed their heart by trust." We've heard a lot about trust today. Trust. Emet. Bichon? Emet is truth. Truth. Excuse me. Bichon is trust. Is that correct? There you go. Alright. And Elohim, who knows the heart, bore them witness by giving the Ruach HaKodesh to them just as he did to us. That is, he made no distinction between us and them, between Jew and Gentile, but cleansed their heart by trust. So why are you putting Elohim to the test now by placing a yoke on the neck of the Talmidim, on the disciples, which neither our fathers nor we have had the strength to bear? Ooh, that's interesting. No, it is through the love and kindness of the Lord Yeshua HaMashiach that we trust and are delivered. It is the same with them, with the Goyim. Then the whole assembly kept still as they listened to Ben-Navi and Shaul tell what signs and miracles Elohim had done through them among the Gentiles. Yaakov, who's Yaakov? James the Just. He is the head Nasi of the Sanhedrin. Now he gets up and he says, "Brothers, hear what I have to say. Shimon has told in detail what Elohim did when he first began to show his concern for taking from among the Goyim a people to bear his name. And the words of the prophets are in complete harmony with this, for it is written. Ready? Verse 16. After this I will return and I will rebuild the fallen tent of David. I will rebuild its ruins. I will restore it, so the rest of mankind may seek the Lord. This is all the Goyim who have been called by my name. That is, all the Goyim that have been called by my name, says Yahweh, who is doing these things. All this has been known for ages. Therefore, my opinion is that we should not put obstacles in the way of the Goyim who are turning to Elohim. Verse 20, instead we should write them a letter telling them to abstain from things polluted by idols, from fornications, from what is strangled, and from blood. And from the earliest times Moshe had in every city those who proclaimed him, with his words being read in the synagogue every Shabbat. Amen. Then the emissaries and the elders, together with the whole Messianic community, decided to select men from themselves to send to Antioch with Shaul and Ben-Navi. They sent Yehuda, called Barsaba, and Sila, or Silas, both leading men among the brothers, with a following letter. And here is the letter. From the emissaries and the elders, your brothers, to brothers from the Gentiles, throughout Antioch, Syria, and Cilicia. Greetings! We have heard that some people went out from among us without any authorization, and that they have upset you with talk, unsettling your minds. So we have decided unanimously to select men and send them to you, our dear friends Ben-Navi and Shaul, who have dedicated their lives to upholding the name of the Lord Yeshua HaMashiach. So we have sent Yehuda and Silas, and they will confirm in person what we're writing. For it seemed good to the Ruach HaKodesh and to us not to lay any heavier burden on you than the following requirements. Verse 29, to abstain from what has been sacrificed to idols, from blood, from things strangled, from fornication. If you keep yourselves from these, you will be doing the right thing, or you will do well. Shalom. The messengers were sent off and went to Antioch, where we gathered the group together and delivered the letter. After reading it, the people were delighted by its encouragement. Yehuda and Silas, who were also prophets, said much to encourage and strengthen the brothers. After they had sent some there, they were sent off with greeting of shalom from the brothers to those who had sent them. But Shaul and Ben-Navi stayed in Antioch, where they and many others taught and proclaimed the full message about the Lord. After some time, Shaul said to Ben-Navi, let's go back and visit the brothers in all the towns where we're proclaiming the message before the Lord, and we'll see how they're doing. Now Ben-Navi wanted to take with them Yochanan, the one called Mark. Now if you remember, he's the one that went with them before but kind of had to bow out for some sort of reason. But Shaul thought it would be unwise to take this man with them, since he had gone off and left them in Pamphylia to do the work by themselves. There was such sharp disagreement over this that they separated from each other, and Ben-Navi taking Mark and Silas off to Cyprus. However, Shaul chose Silas and left after the brothers had committed him to the love and kindness of the Lord. He went through Syria and Cilicia, strengthening the congregation. Amen and amen. Whoa, so there's a lot in that passage. And there's so many important things that I want to share with the fellowship today. This is really, really a message for the hour. Now, what happened was, and if you're familiar with the book of Galatians, particularly with Galatians chapter 2, you're going to have a head start on everybody else today with Galatians 2, because Galatians 2 fills in a lot of the missing pieces. It's almost like reading the gospel account. You know, you'll read one gospel account and it'll give you info that the other one does, and it fills a picture for you. But what happened is that we had Netzarim Pharisees from Yaakov Hazadik's congregation. Now these were legitimate Nazarene Pharisees. They came down across to the brothers in Antioch, Syria, and they were preaching that unless a male believer in Messiah was physically circumcised, they could not be saved. Now there's two problems. Firstly, the Tanakh never teaches that. The Tanakh Tanakh never teaches that. That's problem number one. Number two, they weren't authorised to go down and preach that. Yes, they were from Yaakov's congregation. Yes, they were Nazarene Pharisees, but they were not authorised. And we see that today in our movement. You know what happens in our movement, Rose? We see this a lot in Messianic congregations, particularly smaller ones that lack good solid leadership. We have people that come over from Jerusalem. They can speak and write fluent Hebrew, and they come across as being very impressive. And they'll come and we don't know what they're going to teach. We don't know where they've studied, like that they may have studied at a yeshiva or so on and so forth, but we don't know what their theology is. They say they believe in Messiah, but after a couple of weeks or even days you find out they're actually something like Karaites or something like that. But they impress people by their credentials. So it's not about whether you've got the credentials. Are you coming with an epistle of authority? Are you coming with an epistle of authority? What happens with Shaul? Let's look at Shaul's life, because I want to talk a bit about obedience today. Shaul wants to rout out the Nazarenes. Not just out of Jerusalem, he wants to rout them out of all the surrounding towns. He's going to Damascus. And he is public enemy number one to the Nazarene. He doesn't muck around. This guy lives, breathes, and sleeps Torah, and he hates the heretic. What does he do? What's the first thing that he does? He goes to the high priest and he gets a letter of authority to do it. So he's doing it on the high priest's approval. He's not just going, I'll get a pat on the back when I come back. The high priest is going to thank me because I'm just going to go on my own whim and the Holy Spirit's with me. And I feel I'm being swept along by the Holy Spirit, and I'm going to go in and get those nasty Netzarim. Excuse me saying Nazi, I didn't mean to say Nazi, but you know what I mean. And so he goes in, and he's trying to get these guys. But he hasn't got authority. He hasn't got the authority. But even Shaul went with the authority to round us up and put us in prison. Would you agree? That's what the scripture says. Now, after he has his transformation on the road to Damascus, what happens? He needs to be wiped. Not completely, but he needs to at least go down, and he needs a cleansing, doesn't he? So he's directed by Yeshua where to go. And for 3 days he's blinded. Now he's on our side. What does he do? He doesn't say, alright, I've just seen Yeshua on the road to Damascus. I am now going to go out. I'm going to have 3 days rest. I'm going to get my sight back. And I'm going to go out and I'm going to start preaching the message. No. He gets in contact with people that are Nazarenes, that are in positions of authority within the movement. Barnabas, he goes in there as a prophet and he vouches for Shaul. If it wasn't for Barnabas standing up for Shaul, he wouldn't have had a hope. Well, he might have had a hope, but it would have taken a long time for him to get traction and begin to do any good for the movement. So he had men go in and they vouched for him, didn't they? And then he gets some sort of level of authority and he gets known by the leaders of the movement before he goes out and starts to do the preaching. So it's all done with order. It's all done with a tick of approval, and there's a practicality to it. There's a normalcy to it. It's almost like it's run like a business. You know, you go and you speak to your boss and you share things with your boss before you make decisions with lots of money. Just say if you're in charge of lots of money, whatever. And so that's how things should happen with this fellowship. Now, just in the break, we were talking with Sister Rose. My wife and I were talking with Sister Rose, and months ago, I don't know how long it was a long time ago, we were having difficulties with the fellowship. We were really struggling. And we wanted to leave, didn't we, darling? We wanted to start our own fellowship. We wanted to part ways on good terms with the existing fellowship we were involved with, and we wanted to start a fellowship closer to home. And so, what did we do? We spoke to our rabbi over in Texas, and we said, hey, we're just thinking about it. We're going to go and speak to Maury and everything. We're going to do it proper, but we're thinking that we might sort of move over at this stage and start something new near us. What did he say? He said, no. He said, no. You're not big enough yet. Stay where you are. Okay. I wasn't happy with that. But mind you, Rabbi Rob doesn't often tell you things that you're happy with. And it's usually when he tells you something that you're not happy with it, if you accept it, that's the best advice you could ever get. And so we need to be conscious of the fact that if we're really a movement, if we're really the true chosen people of Yahweh, where is our organisation? Are we an organised rabble of people who all of us are on first name basis, talking basis with Yahweh himself, and then we have no need to consult or to seek counsel, and we go out and we do everything by the Spirit with no counsel at all, with no organisation? Well, you don't see that in Scripture. You don't see that in Scripture. You don't see it when Shaul started his ministry, and even before his ministry, when he was an Orthodox Jew trying to imprison us and, put us in chains and so on and so forth. And you don't see it after he converts to becoming a Nazarene. And you don't see it in the congregations in the book of Acts at all either. So men came down from Yehuda, from Judah. They had not been authorized to teach the brothers. These were unauthorized teachers discussed in Galatians 2:11. Let's quickly turn to Galatians 2:11. Galatians 2:11. When my wife and I were in the church, and we started to come into our understanding of this faith, of the high holy days and everything like that, did we just walk out one day, Shabbat? No, what did we do? We went to our elder and we asked him for permission to leave. You know what? He was pretty happy to let us go. Something like that. And we love him to this very day. He's somebody that's a dear friend of ours. And you know what? To his credit, he was letting me get up and preach right to the very end. He would sit there like this. Some of the things I would say, but he let me. And I said, this guy, he's the man. This guy sitting here, he's letting me up here saying this. I thank him very much for doing that, and I still do to this very day. And it was because me going to that fellowship enabled me to have confidence to get up and speak at all. Had I not gone to that fellowship, where they had their sharing days, I probably would never have got the confidence to get up and speak in front of a group of people at all. And so, we asked him if we could leave, and he said, yeah, sure. He wanted to know why, and we told him why, and he said, yeah, we can't cater for that. Sorry about that. No dramas. We're still friends doing this very day. We told him we wanted to start going alternatively to another group. That was Maury and Glenda Holman, blessed memory, their home group. So we told him that we wanted to start going there intermittently to see what it was like, because it might not have been what we wanted to do, and we might have felt that we made a wrong decision. And so we tried to do it all above board, didn't we? So, because there's no need to, isn't there? There's no need to get all sort of covert or anything. You just tell people, just share with people how you're feeling, and you might find it's a lot easier to get it sorted that way. Okay, so is everybody at Galatians 2? Everybody's there except me. That's not very good. Come on, Galatians. It's alright, I know where it is. Galatians 2. Okay, so verse 11. Furthermore, when Kepha came to Antioch, I opposed him publicly. So this is Shaul speaking about Kepha. Now, what's he opposing him publicly? Because he was clearly in the wrong. But prior to arrival of certain people from the community headed by Yaakov, so there we go, we're getting the confirmation that these Pharisees were from the community of Yaakov. They were Nazarene Pharisees who had been eating with the Gentile believers, but when the Nazarene Pharisees came, Kepha withdrew and separated himself because he was afraid of the faction who favoured circumcised Gentile believers. He was afraid of the faction who favoured circumcised Gentile believers. And we continue on. And the other Jewish believers became hypocrites along with him, so that even Bernabe was even led astray by their hypocrisy. But when I saw that they were not walking in a straight path, keeping in line with the truth, the emet, that's emet, isn't it? And the full message I said to Kiefer right in front of everyone. Why do you say it in front of everyone? Because Kiefer withdrew publicly, so Shaul confronted him publicly, right in front of everyone. If you who are a Jew live like a Goyim and not like a Jew, why are you forcing the Goyim to live like Jews? We are Jews by birth, not so-called Goyish sinners. Even so, we have come to realize that a person is not declared righteous by anything on the grounds of his legalistic observance of Torah commandments. Right. So you had Ben-Navi and you had Shimon Kiefer and other prominent apostles, Shluchim. They were eating with uncircumcised people and sharing in their table fellowship offerings and so on and so forth. And when these guys, these impressive looking Nazarene Pharisees came from Jerusalem, and that would have looked so embarrassing. It would have looked, oh my goodness, it would be like, now I'll give you an example of what it would be like. It would be me doing the liturgy in Hebrew, entirely in Hebrew, and doing the liturgy how I would like to do it, with all the Hebrew flares, and then Rod comes out, on a particular Sabbath, and then I do the liturgy in English. And we don't tell anyone, it's just all of a sudden the liturgy is in English. And that would have to be dealt with publicly, because it's a public thing that's being read out. And so that's what has occurred here. And so Shaul is really going to town on Kiefer, Shimon Kiefer, and he's saying, you're getting people to live like a Jew and you're not even living like a Jew yourself. So how does that work? These men were insisting that the Gentile believer had to become an Israelite in every single sense. This condition goes beyond the requirements for salvation set forth in the Tanakh and the Book of Renewal. Nowhere in the Bible is circumcision dependent on is salvation dependent on circumcision. Most of the cool stuff Abraham is noted as doing in his life, he had a foreskin on. Most of the cool stuff you read about Abraham doing in his life, his relationship with Yahweh, he was still fitted with a foreskin. It was only in his latter years, his very lattermost years, that he shed that foreskin and he moved even closer still with the Heavenly Father. Was he saved when he had that foreskin? Yes. And as we've been studying, Rose, you might remember that we've been talking about the different states of righteous Gentiles. You remember that? We have the Ger Hashar, which is the Gentile who's turning from his wicked ways. Teshav is Teshuvah. So we have the Ger Teshav. We have the Ger Hashar, which is the Gentile near the gates. We're doing the praise and worship now. It's cool. And we have the Ger Zadik. We have the righteous Gentile. Now, I've been thinking about this and praying about this quite a lot, and this is what keeps coming up. The best way I can describe this entire process of approaching Yahweh from a Gentile background is this. Imagine there is a theme park. It is a fun park, and it's the best fun park in the world. In fact, it's such an awesome fun park that if you go there, it changes your life. And no other fun park comes close to this fun park. It's just awesome. I can't describe to you how awesome it is with human words. And there is a person that has decided they want to go to this fun park. So they've got their money together, they've put fuel in their car, they've got their family organised, they've done a little bit of research, they've found out what rides are on offer and how much the food is, because sometimes the food at these theme parks can be a bit pricey. And they've worked out, they've had their day off work, they've organised their day off work to go, because it's better to go on a weekday than a weekend. Less crowds, you don't have to wait in line as much. And they've found out what rides are there and everything and how long they're going to stay there. They've done a little bit of their homework. They're on their way in their car. So what's at the forefront of this family's mind? Going to a theme park. Now, should the world end right now, what's happening in this family just as the world ends? They're going to the theme park, aren't they? They're on their way to the theme park. Are they excited about it? Yep. It's not a chore to go. They're not doing it out of legalism. They've got expectations about it. They're talking about it, and there's an excitement, and there's a fervour inside the car. And they can't get there quick enough. There's a bit of traffic. But the world ends. Is that family saved? You betcha. Why? Because they're coming. Their approach has begun, hasn't it? That's the Ger Teshah. They've stopped doing whatever it is they should be doing normally, or what their normal routine is, and they're now going to the theme park, to the awesome fun park. So that's the Ger Teshah, isn't it? Now, the Ger Teshah is the person that's actually got to the fun park, and they're actually at the gates of the fun park, and they're waiting to get in. The lines are very long, and they're waiting, and they can hear the rides. They can hear the sound of all the rides, they can hear the people screaming and yelling, and all the fun, and there's an anticipation, there's an adrenaline that's rushing up in them. Some are waiting there because they're waiting for friends. Probably a bad idea, but they're doing it anyway, and they still want to go. Some are actually having doubts about going in, they've seen the price. And they've gone, ooh. So you've got people milling around the gate of the theme park. Their intention is to go in, whatever reason, they're not in yet. That's the Ger Teshah. Now you've got the Ger Zadik. They're in the theme park. They're on the rides. They're going on the Dodgem cars, and they're going on the train, and the Tower of Terror, and they're on the roller coaster, and the wet and wild section of the theme park. That's the Ger Zadik. Now, are they in the theme park? Yes, they're in the theme park. But guess what? They're not going on all the rides, if you know why they're not going on all the rides? Because some of the rides are really scary. Now, the rides signify commandments. There's one ride, and it's really scary. It's almost the equivalent of getting circumcised. And so they don't want to go. A lot of the Ger Zadik don't want to go. They're going, gee, I don't think I want to go on that one. The mind boggles what type of ride that would be. But, I'll ask you again. Are these Ger Zadiks, are they in the park? Are they in the commonwealth? Are they in the community? Yes. So therefore are they saved? Yes. So are the ones in the car saved? On their way there? Yes. Are the ones milling around the gate, waiting to get in with anticipation? Yes. They want to come in. The line's too long, or they're waiting for friends, or they might be having doubts about coming in because they're scared, because this is real. This is when they go in, the fun is so awesome, it's going to change their life. And some people are a bit scared about changing their lives. Why a lot of people don't do what we're doing is because they're actually scared about how much of a change it's going to have impacting on their lives. Yeah. Some of them enjoy their sinful life, and they've gotten used to it. And sure, there's drawbacks with it, it's killing them slowly, but they've gotten used to it, and this is a bit scary. This is new, and I'm old. They're old. They may have been around for a few years, and so they're a bit scared about making a decision. So you've got your Ger Teshah at the gates, and you've got your Ger Zadiks. Now you've got your Jew, and they run the park. They're the royal family, aren't they? They run the park. They know how the rides work. They go on all the rides, and they know how they function. They practice them and everything like that. And they go on all the rides. Are they saved? Yes. Now, are they going to go on some more rides that some of the Ger Zadiks are going to go on? Yes, probably. Are the Ger Zadiks saved? Yes. So they're all saved, aren't they? They're all part of Israel. Even the ones on their approach into Israel, that's going to come up in their council, in their tribunal, when they're standing before the Heavenly Council. What were you doing? I was on my way to the theme park. A really cool one. Alright, no worries. It doesn't matter how fast they were going or how slow they were going. So there are the three stages of the approaching Israelite. The Elohim Pharaoh, or the Ger who is coming in near the gates, or righteous. Now these Ger have these things in common. See, look what it says in the Tanakh, in Joel 2:31. Everyone that calls on the name of Yahweh shall be saved. Was Ruth saved? Yes. Why? Because she called on the name of Yahweh. May your Elohim be my Elohim. May your people be my people. May Yahweh deal with me ever so horrendously if anything but death separates me from you. Everyone who calls on the name of Yahweh shall be saved. Not everybody who gets circumcised. Can I tell you a secret? Circumcision would never be an issue had everybody followed the Torah and circumcised their son on the 8th day. Nowhere in the Nazarene Ketuvim, the New Testament, does it say that practice should cease. So if every mama was circumcising their child on the 8th day, guess what? Circumcision would never be a debate. All males of age, all adult males would be circumcised. The Nazarene Ketuvim, the writings of the Nazarenes, never goes back on the commandments of Moshe. Never, ever. Now, I need to talk to you guys about the 7 laws of Noah, because there's a lot of negative stuff out there about the 7 Noahide laws. And you know where it comes from? It chiefly comes from your conspiracy theory demographic, which guess what? I was a part of for many years. And I was a bit reserved about the Noahide laws. I read about the guillotine and everything. We often have the conspiracy theory demographic tell you about how evil the 7 Noahide laws are, because why they're evil? Because it's a different way to salvation. So you have the Torah, and then you have the 7 Noahide laws. So there's 2 ways of salvation. That goes against the scriptures, doesn't it? And not only that, if you read the stipulations of the 7 Noahide laws in the evil book called the Talmud, it talks about decapitation. There is actually a capital punishment of beheading there that's related to the 7 Noahide laws. Let's not forget the fact that the Torah itself speaks of one of the punishments as being immolation, like being set on fire or swallowing hot coals. It's interesting how the Torah sort of gets off scot-free, yet the Noahide laws, which are discussed at length in the Talmud, tends to come under scrutiny and come under fire. What am I saying today? I'm telling you today that there are 7 Noahide laws, and they are in Scripture. They are enumerated in the Talmud. What does that mean? You'll find them one after the other with explanations written about in the Jewish Talmud, but they are in the Scriptures, and there they are. Do not murder, according to Genesis 9, verses 5 and 6. Do not steal, according to Genesis 2:16, 6 and 11. Do not worship false Elohim, Genesis 2:16. Do not be sexually immoral. Forbidden sex acts traditionally interpreted to include incest, sodomy, homosexuality, and adultery, Genesis 20 and 3. Do not eat anything of the body of a still living animal. This is a humanitarian command, and many regions, especially in hot regions, would chop off the leg of a dog or an animal, eat the limb of the animal, and keep the animal alive so the other limbs are fresh, and they'll gradually take off all the animal's limbs until they've eaten the entire animal, and the animal will remain alive until it's got no more limbs, I guess. That is very, very wicked. That is very, very twisted and sick, and it's an abomination. And so we don't do that. We don't normally do that in Western countries, but in some Middle Eastern countries, that is still practiced today. You'll see a dog hopping around a community with 3 legs. That's pretty terrible. Where's its other leg? It's been eaten. Do not blaspheme. What does that mean? It means do not take the tetragrammaton, the 4-letter name of Yahweh, the salvation name, and use it in a fashion that is throwaway. Basically what I mean is if you're saying the name Yahweh in a sentence, and somebody has to remind you that you've just used the name and you don't remember, then that's a good example of bringing his name to naught. He wants you, when you say it in a sentence, for it to have a resonation within your whole body and your whole being. It's not about stubbing your toe on the ground and saying, Jesus Christ, although I don't want people to say that because that's just nasty anyway. So I don't advocate people saying Jesus Christ as a form of swearing or whatever. We set up righteous and honest courts and apply fair justice in judging offenders. Genesis 6, 11, 13. So that's the 7 Noahide laws. Now, you'll notice that they're all part of the Torah, aren't they? And you'll find them within the 613 commandments. You'll even find some in the 10 commandments, which are a summarization of the 613 commandments. So it's not another Torah, is it, Giordano? So those that say that the 7 Noahide laws are another Torah don't know what they're talking about. Because what this is these are the basic laws that all sentient life should be observing wherever they are, on a desert island, no matter what. Because you know what, Iffy? Not everybody gets the opportunity to hear as much about Yahweh as you have had in your life. Not everybody has had the opportunity like me to hear what I've heard. Not, you know what, people go through life and they don't meet anybody in their lives like Robert Miller. They'll go through their whole life and they won't meet anyone like him that brings the scriptures alive. And you'll know after you've been to a lecture with Rabbi Rob. You walk away going, whoa. And there's people that do the word injustice too. They'll get it wrong, or they'll just deliver it in such a way that you'll end up sort of falling asleep, or you won't even remember anything that's said. Please don't laugh. John's like, hang on, that's Jason, because I've fallen asleep nearly every time. But that's alright. And the Talmud says, and I know I don't quote from the Talmud anymore, but this is Rob's notes, so I'm off the hook. Righteous people of all nations have a share in the world to come, according to Sanhedrin 105a. Netzarim have always taught. What have they always taught? This is from Romans 2, verses 12 to 16. It says, all who sin apart from the Torah will also perish apart from the Torah. All who sin under the Torah will be judged by the Torah. For it is not those who hear the Torah who are righteous in Yahweh's sight, but it is those who obey the Torah who will be declared righteous. And this commentary says, indeed, when Gentiles who do not have the Torah do by instinctively what is required by the Torah, they are a law for themselves, even though they do not have the law. Since they show that the requirements of the law are written on their hearts, their consciences also bearing witness, and their thoughts now accusing, now even defending them. So what is that saying? That's basically saying that you might have a particular individual, a group of individuals that never heard the Torah in their lives, but they know not to murder one another, and they know what's right in terms of loving their neighbour as themselves. It's not rocket science to get up in the morning and go, you know what, that person, if that person was me, I think I'd probably want to have me be acting in this way towards myself, to make that person pleased and happy. So ultimately, the Torah, you can break it down to love your neighbour as yourself. That's pretty straightforward. You'll see that even in the animal kingdom. This will take place on the day when Yahweh will judge men's secrets through Messiah Yeshua, as my message declares. Okay, so everybody pretty much is on the same page in terms of the majority of the basics of the Noahide laws. Now, very soon we're going to look at some scripture in this week's chapter that adds about 2 or 3 obligations. Now, you didn't know that there were added obligations. What are they added to? They're added to the 7 Noahide laws. Because the Gentiles that are coming in, they're pretty much doing all the 7 Noahide laws anyway. And what we read about in the next couple of verses is a couple of things that they may still be practicing that wouldn't allow them normally to be able to interact with somebody who was keeping the Torah. The book of Galatians is pertinent to understanding Acts 15. According to Galatians 2, 1 and 10, Rav Shaul visited Jerusalem and presented the Messianic message he preached among the Gentiles. The Jewish and Netzarim leaders gave approval to his message and did not require Gentile Titus to be circumcised. In Galatians 2:11-21, we find sometime after that Rabbi Kippur came to Antioch and enjoyed the grace of Yahweh among the Antioch believers in Syria. He participated in their love feast, he ate with them, but when some Jewish believers came from the congregation, from James the Just, was pastor, came to Antioch, Rabbi Kippur withdrew from the Gentiles, those who came from Orthodox Jews who had converted to the Netzarim faith. Rabbi Kippur submitted to their religious pressure and caused such a turmoil that even Ben Navi separated himself from the Gentiles. When Rav Shaul saw it, he confronted the situation head on because Rabbi Kippur had pulled away publicly. Rabbi Shaul rebuked him publicly. Shaul took stand for the grace of Yahweh, and Rabbi Kippur obviously repented of his position. That's why, when they go up to Jerusalem now, Navi and Kippur are with Shaul, and they're all in one accord now. So Shimon, Kippur, and Navi have seen the error in their ways, and now they agree with Shaul, but they want to go up to Jerusalem to get a ruling. Because these upstarts from Yaakov's original congregation have caused division, and will go to another congregation behind Shaul's back, and listen, if I go up to a guy who loves Yahweh, and he comes to this fellowship, and he loves it, and he's got a foreskin, and I tell him I need to have that, I need to take a little off the top, you are going to, you know what, for some reason a man's pride is very much attached to his member. And women don't really understand this, but it's interesting because it's almost like as if I say, Rose, I'm sorry, but you can't keep coming in here unless you have a mastectomy. Do you know what I mean? Like it's that full on. That's full on a thing. See, a lot of women had no problem in joining because they didn't have to overcome the hurdle of circumcision. If you were a rich Romanesque, Greek woman, somebody from some other nation, and you had time on your hands and you could study and listen to these guys teach, you had no fear, you had nothing like that you had to worry about or navigate through. So these guys were petrifying a lot of the early believers, and it was dividing the congregations, that Shaul and Ben Navi and Shimon Keefer had set up. And it was going through like wildfire, and there was people that were convinced of it and people that weren't convinced of it. And so they needed a ruling from the Sanhedrin in Jerusalem, from Yaakov's congregation. Okay, they accused Shaul of preaching a watered-down message in order to please men. After discrediting the man, it was easier for them to oppose his message. They convinced many of the Galatian believers faith in Yahweh was not enough. If they truly wanted to be part of the covenant family, they had to become Jews. Oh, guess what that's like? That's like a guy in the theme park, and you just grab him, and he goes, oh, what? Because you've got to get up there right now! He goes, why? Otherwise you're going to get thrown out of the park! And so you put him on this ride, it's called the Tower of Terror, and it basically shoots the rockets the guy up a mile into the sky, and then it drops in free fall down, and you've got to make sure that your heart's been checked, otherwise you'll have a heart attack and you'll die. Guess what that guy's doing? I'm out of here! And so we've got to be careful, and that's something that isn't to do with the Torah. You know what I've seen happen, and Rob has seen this happen, and other people, you guys may have seen this happen. You get somebody that comes to the congregation, they start to talk to one of the lay people in the fellowship, and they're talking to them about the Sabbath, and they find out that this little lady who's single, who has a job and it's paying away, works every second Saturday. And so they turn to this little lady and they say, oh, you'll have to quit that job. And this lady's been coming to the fellowship quite regularly from, say, about 2 months. And so this other regular believer who's been here a couple of years has basically said, you've got to have faith that Yahweh's going to get you another job. You need to quit that job. And so what happens? That lady stops coming. And the rabbi rings up and finds out, why have you stopped coming? And she says, well, I was talking to one of your members and they told me that I had to quit my job. And if I quit my job, I'm going to be kicked out of my rental place. I won't be able to make my car payments. I just can't do that. And the rabbi says, well, I never told you that. If you're going to do anything like that or you want counsel on that, you should come to me. Don't go and speak to anybody that just might come up to you. You don't know who that was. That person may have been a visitor like you, or only come 5 times like before you've come. You know what that's like? That's like the Ger Kashav who's in the car on the way to the theme park. I stop the car, I say, get out of the car right now! They get out of the car, alright, get in that cannon! What? You want to go to the theme park, you're going and I'm shooting you out of a cannon to the theme park. And so you lumber them into the barrel of a cannon, and you're going to shoot them to the theme park in a cannon. Even if there was a blow-up, thing for them to land in, to cushion their fall, a big balloon, that's going to traumatize them. So you don't do that. It's all about the approach. So if we have somebody come here, and they've got a few wacky ideas, they're not even probably aware of the Sabbath. If you've seen that, haven't you? They're not even up to speed with the Sabbath. We don't chastise them. They go, what are you doing? You come to the leadership and you say, probably good time to maybe share the Sabbath in the next couple of weeks, which is working. And so we've got to you're going to have people coming through this door constantly that are on page 1. So we've got to constantly go back and talk about the name. We've got to constantly bring up the Sabbath to at least some degree. We've got to constantly talk about the covenants. We've got to constantly bring up the issue of circumcision, because it was an issue that came up then and it's an issue that comes up now. Baruch Hashem. And if you're a veteran, you've been here for years, it's good to get a refresher. Because you know what? If you don't talk about the name, you lose it. If you don't use it, you will lose it. So the more you use it, the more you keep it, yeah? So when people are asking you questions, that's actually a fantastic thing because it keeps you sharp. It keeps you on the ball. So we don't want to get anybody and put them in a cannon and shoot them with this fellowship out of a cannon, do we? If they're coming in a car, or they're coming by bus or by train, we let them come by bus or train. If they want to walk and they're comfortable with walking, we let them walk here. That's the pace they're comfortable with going. We don't want to get them in a car because they might even be traumatised by being put in a car. These Gentiles, many of whom had never heard of Moses, were told they needed to keep the law of Moses. Insane. They haven't even heard of him. And particularly fulfill the ritual of circumcision in order to truly be saved. You know what? If somebody was in this room that wasn't circumcised right now, if I said, right, if you don't get circumcised, you're going to hell. Okay, they leave this fellowship, they get hit by a bus, they get put in hospital, it's not looking good, they're going to die. They haven't got time to get circumcised. That's pretty rough, isn't it? If it's a person who's in prison, or they're a slave, and the slave master says, you won't get circumcised, because remember what the scripture says, stay as you are called? That poor slave or that person in prison you're not going to give them a good feeling for the rest of their life, are you? If they're really convicted by this and they believe this is true. So it's got nothing to do with that. Circumcision has got nothing to do with salvation. It is something that has everything to do with moving closer to Yahweh. I accept that. But remember, circumcision of the heart is not a New Testament teaching. You'll find it in the book of Deuteronomy. Circumcision of the heart is a Tanakh teaching. Circumcision of the heart is from the Tanakh, from the Torah. So, there's nothing new. It's all as it was in olden days. Take us back to the ancient path, our Heavenly Father. They were told faith in Yahweh was not enough. They had to adopt the cultural norms of the Jews, and that's what's been happening in this fellowship. We've had people in the fellowship that have been wanting to bring the cultural norm of what they think is Torah into an environment where it's not going to meld, it's not going to mesh. And so it's not Torah that you're wanting people to do, it's a cultural norm that you want them to take on. And we shouldn't drive any type of cultural norm, no matter which culture it's from, down a person's throat. We shouldn't even drive Torah down a person's throat. What do? We do it and we go, this is awesome. And people go, I want to be like that and get some of what is awesome, what that person's getting. So many people have been put off by Nazarene congregations and Messianic congregations because cultural norms have been shoved down their throat from the Jews. Because you've got super Jews, you've got people in here that are super Jews in congregations that they want to go to Farbrengens, they want to do all sorts of things that the Chabad houses do and so on and so forth. And you know what, for those individuals that want to do that, that's fine. I'm not telling you to do that. But don't force it on other people. You wouldn't want somebody who's liberal-minded to enforce their liberalness on you. So why would we want you to be forced on that person and bring all that extra yoke that you're not even doing yourself? Let's face it, you're not even doing it yourself. It has become a great treatise of the liberties of the King. What's that? The book of Galatians. It proclaims the message of faith in King Messiah Yeshua alone for salvation. What is required of salvation alone? King Messiah Yeshua. The letter of Galatians stands as a great monument of grace of Yahweh and in great opposition to all who would attempt to regulate this wonderful relationship with Messiah into a list of rules and regulations. These events serve as a backdrop to what happens in Acts 15. The book of Galatians and the meeting of the Jerusalem Council also serves as a significant lesson for the missionaries. Too many missionaries have imposed their own highly cultured-bound form of messianic understanding on converts in other cultures, never aware of the fundamental damage that they might be doing. Messianism, or Messianic Judaism, or the Nazarene faith, is not Messiah plus a list of legalistic convictions or cultural norms. Faith in Yahweh through Messiah Yeshua alone is salvation. We're in the theme park. We're going to the theme park. We're about to enter the theme park. That is the salvation. That is the salvation. That's a terrible analogy, I thought it was, but Yahweh said, well, what do you want when you go into the kingdom? I said, I guess I want to be happy. You want Simcha. Nothing wrong with the theme park analogy. Okay, fair enough. Faith in Yahweh through Messiah Yeshua is salvation. The Jerusalem Council meeting affirms this truth, and this is what we're going to read a lot of in this chapter that we've read. That mainly takes place in the Beth Din. What does Beth Din mean? House of judgment. Now this brought them into a dispute and debate of no little proportion with Rav Shaul and Ben Navi, and who were appointed to go up. Oh, there's that phrase. Go up. Make Aliyah. Go up, ascend to Jerusalem. So it's basically saying that the geography, the locality of where they're going is up. It's not down or not across to, it's up. So they're going to a higher place for a ruling. Others from them to bring the Shelah, the question before the Messiah, Shluchim, the apostles, and the elders in Jerusalem. The controversy took place in Antioch, the largest network of Gentile congregations in the world. Where was the largest network of Gentile congregations in the world? Antioch. Where was the place where we first called Cretans? Antioch. But the issue could not be resolved in Antioch. This was a defining moment in the history of our movement. Rabbi Shaul had already had his conflicts with this group, these Netzarim Pharisees, with no ultimate victory. The apostles themselves needed to be on this monumental discussion. If this issue could not have been clearly settled, it would have led to a division between the Gentiles and the Jewish Messianic members, and that would have been danger, absolute danger. It would have marked the kiss of death for our movement. It would have died a whole lot quicker than it did when it went underground. The phrase, go up to Jerusalem, speaks of the city being higher in elevation, just said that. Then, having been sent on their way by the congregation, they were passing through both Phoenicia and Shimron, telling in detail how the nations were turning to Elohim, and they were bringing great simcha to all the brothers in Messiah. So we see that they're continuing to bring encouragement and joy, even though they're dealing with a difficult issue. They cared less about the cultural ramifications than they did about the Messiah's message being preached and the prophecy being fulfilled. Man, they were very focused on their task of spreading the message. If we could be focused like 5% with what these guys are geared on, we would be doing well. And having come to Jerusalem, they were received by Messiah's congregation and Messiah's apostles and the elders, and they reported what things that Elohim had done. And then they've responded by saying it is necessary to give the Goyim the Brit Milah, the circumcision, and to command them to keep the Torah of Moshe Rabbeinu. So, the presence of the apostles and elders indicates the significance of the level of significance of this council. The elders were members of the Sanhedrin, unlike the congregations of Phoenicia and Samaria. There is no mention of joy upon hearing the reports. Rather, there is confrontation. Many of the Pharisees became followers of Messiah Yeshua, but they believed in Yeshua as Messiah. He alone was not enough for salvation. That's a problem. And we've got people in our movement today that believe that, they're coming. I want to state publicly today at this meeting that I truly believe that faith in Messiah Yeshua alone is enough for salvation. Yahweh will meet you where you're at. I'm not poo-pooing on circumcision. I'm not poo-pooing on any of the finer orthodox aspects of somebody's faith if they want to take that on. But do not put that on somebody who is not interested or doesn't appear to have the will to do what you've been doing. And be careful yourself, or you'll find yourself chasing your tail and doing something that you can never possibly achieve. But to a certain of these, it was Yeshua plus circumcision and the law, and what other requirements they could add to the Gentile to ensure loyalty to Israel, to the Israeli revolution. It's a bit political, isn't it? And Messiah's apostles and the elders were gathered together as a council to consider this matter. And after much deliberation had taken place, Messiah's apostles, Apostle Shimon Kefa got up and said, "Who's Kefa?" He's the highest ranking guy that's doing the ministry, the outreach. So he's the spokesman for the evangelist arm of the apostles. So he gets up and he says, "Men, brothers in Messiah, you have knowledge that in early days Yahweh chose that among you I would be the one through my mouth the Goyim or the Gentiles would hear the word of Elohim of the announcement of redemption and would come to faith. That's Rob's notes there, not mine, but I have no problem with them. 8. And the one who has knowledge of heart, Elohim bore solemn witness and stood as their witness, having given the non-Jews the Ruach HaKodesh, just as Elohim did also to us Jews. What happened in Cornelius' house? Cornelius and his family hadn't even been immersed yet. And what happened? By the end of the lecture, the Ruach fell on them. This broke all the rules of what the apostles, even the Nazarene apostles, believed were the rules of the way the Ruach HaKodesh worked. You can't put him in a box. And in making pure their hearts by faith, in this respect, Elohim did not differentiate between us Jews and those non-Jews. Therefore, now why are you testing Yahweh by laying on a yoke upon the neck of the disciples, which neither our fathers nor we have the strength to bear? Whoa! People with affirming salvation in Messiah, salvation is not Messiah plus circumcision plus a bunch of religious rule keeping or carrying out any other cultural conviction. Salvation is through faith in Yahweh, through Messiah Yeshua alone. To add the whole Torah as revealed to Moshe as a litmus test of faith is to test Yahweh, because in effect it means that the sacrificial death of Messiah Yeshua wasn't enough. You know what? I think there's a lot of people that are going to come before the heavenly tribunal and get a bit of a shock. They think they've got a handle on this and they understand this, but what they've got to realise is it all comes down to the bottleneck of what King Messiah Yeshua did in offering himself up as a living sacrifice. Because you know what? It's Yahweh's mercy. They're going to be people that they won't have time. They'll only have a few minutes to declare their allegiance to Yahweh before they die. And you want these to be saved, don't you? They might be your family, your friends, your relatives. And if you go along with what these Nazarene Pharisees are teaching, they haven't got a hope. They've only got a few minutes, and they haven't got enough minutes to do everything you want them to do to be saved, let alone get circumcised. This is powerful, man. The Torah was never meant for salvation. And you read that. You know what? The Torah will actually ruin your day if that's the thing that you're thinking is going to be the thing that is your saviour. It is for maintaining the sanctified life. This is a good note to take down, Rose, if you're taking notes. The Torah was never meant for salvation. It is for maintaining the sanctified life. The Torah is not a repressive burden. Accepting the Torah is accepting Yahweh's kingdom and acknowledging His authority in our lives. It is our constitution for the kingdom. Once one has made Yahweh sovereign of his life, giving him the right to direct his life, Elohim gives commandments and guidelines to maintain this abundant life in Messiah. As Yeshua said, if you love me, keep my commandments, John 14:15. Excuse me. So what is Rabbi Kiva talking about? He's talking about detailed mechanical rule keeping that tries to buy into the kingdom regardless of spiritual attitude. The yoke of legalism is indeed unbearable. The yoke of legalism is indeed unbearable. The yoke of the kingdom has always required love, according to Mark 12:28 and 34. Love can never be legalistic. Rabbi Shaul also spoke of the yoke of slavery in Romans 1:11 and in Galatians 2:16 and 5:1. On the contrary, we believe that we Jews come to Elohim's salvation by unmerited favour and mercy of Rebbe King Messiah Yeshua in the same way Yahweh does as those non-Jews do also. So, understanding the Noahide laws, understanding the Ten Commandments, the obligation that the Elohim-fearing Gentile has and what the covenant-keeping Jew has, this is not upholding the false teaching of two ways of salvation. This, if you understand this, you truly understand the echadness of one Torah being for the Gentile and one being for the Jew. See, what we've done in the past is we've grabbed the Torah as it fits the Jew and we've tried to fit it onto the Gentile who's coming in. And it won't fit. It won't fit them. And you know what? In some cases they've got what fits the Gentile and they've tried to put it on the Orthodox Jew. And so the Orthodox Jew runs them off. Because you're really watering down what he's come to know and learn and to love, haven't you? And I'm talking about a righteous Orthodox Jew, and they do exist. And so we've got to discern the spirit. You who are spiritual, if one of you is caught in a sin, you who are spiritual, Isn't that, we never read that before, did you? If one of you is caught in a sin, you who are spiritual, restore him gently. You know what we've always read? If one of you is caught in a sin, restore him gently. You've never thought about you who are spiritual. If you're not spiritual, don't do anything. Put him onto people who are spiritual. But that's what we do. We have too many people who want to fix people's problems, and they haven't been able to fix their own, and they're not even walking in the Spirit. This dispute lasted for days, more than that. It seemed that the incident in the house of Cornelius would have settled the issue several years earlier, according to Acts 10:11. At the time it was accepted, it must have been seen as an isolated incident. Rabbi Kifa reminds them all, for those in Caesarea neither circumcised or keeping the whole Torah of Moses was a prerequisite for receiving the Ruach HaKodesh. Rabbi Kifa was not sent to the house of Cornelius to prepare him for long-term calling to the Gentiles. Rather, Yahweh sent Rabbi Kifa to Cornelius to prepare him for Jerusalem council. Rabbi Kifa says it was a yoke no one has the strength to bear. It takes the Holy Spirit to give the ability for any covenant-keeping Jew to keep it. Just as it is the Holy Spirit that enables the Gentile to keep the covenants of Yahweh made with the whole world through Noah. Rabbi Yeshua contradicted legalism when he announced in Matthew 11:28 and 30, "Come to me, all you who labour and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." And then all the multitude was silent, and they were listening to Ben-Navi and Rav Shaul describing the signs and the wonders that Yahweh had done among the nations. Shimon explained how Yahweh first concerned himself to receive from the nations the people for his name, according to Zechariah 6:12. And this is in agreement with the words of the prophets, just as it was written, "After these days I will return, and I will restore the tent of David which is fallen, and the things have been torn down. Of it I will rebuild, and I will restore it." So that the remnant of the men might seek Elohim, and all the Goyim who are called by my name. Okay. Therefore it is my judgment not to trouble the ones from the Goyim turning to Teshuvah, returning to Yahweh, but to write them to keep away from the pollution of idols, or sacrifices to idols, and of zimut, which is basically it's sexual immorality, but in a more technical sense it means a sexual release that is purely based on the release being the desire, rather than intimacy within the confines of marriage, or relational intimacy within Yahweh's designated union of a covenant marriage. And of the things strangled and of blood, according to Leviticus 3, they're all there. The human race consists of two distinct religious groups, each of which is to serve Yahweh in accordance with his express will. The first group, the Jews, are to study and observe the Torah, their code of law. The second group, the non-Jews, also have a code of law. This legal system is based on Yahweh's 6 commandments to Adam. So they were originally given to Adam, and then there was an additional one, a prohibition given to Noah, but they are known as the Noahide laws. Since these 7 laws were included in the Torah, some paralleling the 10 commandments, they are to be observed by Jews as well. So Jews observe all the commandments of the 7 Noahide laws. There's not a group of people doing one thing with a group of people doing something else. There's 2 yokes. There is a yoke made from the one type of compound that's good for that group, and there is a yoke that is made from that same one type of compound that is done for the other group. So there's not 2 Torahs or 2 ways. There is one Torah for all. But it's circumstantial, the Torah that we apply to the given situation. For Moshe Rabbeinu, that is Moses, our master teacher or prophet, from ancient days in every city has his preaching been read in the shuls every Shabbat. Guess what? That's actually telling them that we do want you to keep the holy convocation of Shabbat. That is actually part of what is part of this epistle that is being sent back to Antioch. Where else are they going to find out, Rose, about this? They've got to come on Sabbath, don't they? They've got to come and listen to the message. They've got to come and be a part of being echad with Yahweh and through our praise and worship. They've got to come and eat with us communally and have a chat. I was touched today. Had I not come here, I would not have been touched in the way I was touched today. And you aren't we, Shabbat? We're going to leave from here and we're going to go, yeah, that was good. We do, like Shabbat and I, we constantly, we get worn down, you know, we're not superhuman. But we leave Shabbat and we are filled up. I'm telling you. You know what? I'll be honest with you, sometimes being filled up, that might only last a day. But had we not come here, we wouldn't have got it, so that would be 2 weeks without getting a fill up. So if you start keeping Shabbat, it'll keep you. It will keep you. Alright, so we're very quickly now, we're getting near the end. It appears that some diplomatic concessions were made, and these are those diplomatic concessions to the Gentiles not keeping the exact Mosaic law to be saved. To be saved, okay? They represent a basic separation from glaring paganism and its practices particularly offensive to Jewish scruples. So there is a concept of at least coming to some degree so you can have interaction with Orthodox Jews. I mean, it'd be good to be able to at least talk to Orthodox Jews. But if you're carrying on and not keeping the 7 laws, you could have a carry contamination. What's a carry contamination? That means if you've had a seminal mission and you haven't been bathed, that you go up and start hanging out with a Jewish man, or you might even be a Levite, and you're going to contaminate him. You don't know and he doesn't know. But what he does in the next 24 hours or 48 hours may not be accepted because he's not clean now. And that's why they're very cautious about who they hang out with, who they eat with. They take this very seriously. It's not something that you should frown upon and want to take on yourself, but respect it. That's what they do. And that's not me. I'm not talking literally about me. But somebody might say, listen, I don't think I'm ever going to get to that stage, and I don't think I need to. And you don't for salvation. You don't. It's not a, you know, you heard that expression, is it a salvation issue? Everything's a salvation issue, that's the thing. But it's, what do you want to do? What ride do you want to go on? You're here. You're in the theme park. You're there. You're through the gates. It's not an issue. We're not worried about going to hell anymore. It's not about going to hell. It's not made for you. It's made for fallen angels. So stop worrying about going to hell, because you're going to hell. I don't want you to stop worrying about to the point where you get lethargic in your walk. I still want you to tremble with fear. But stop going, if you're still in a phase where that's what Christians do. They worry that they're going to go to hell. Every day they have to be reassured they're not going to hell. The first 2 items are widely practiced in Gentile cultures. The last 2 items appear to be added to aid in the mutual fellowship of Jews or Gentiles. They should do the last 2 mentioned in verse 20, not to offend those mentioned in verse 21. Yahweh calls on us out of love to refrain from certain activities that would offend other believers. Then it was received by the Mashiach Shluchim and the elders of the entire congregation to choose men from them to send to Assyria and Antioch and Rav Shmuel ben Navi, also Yehuda, called Barsaba, and Silas, that's Rabbi Silas, the author of this book, and all leaders among the brothers in Messiah, with the following epistle. And the following epistle read such: From the brothers in Mashiach Shluchim and the elders to the brothers in Messiah throughout Antioch and Syria, Cilicia, to those from among the nations, Shalom. And we read through this whole passage earlier, and I'm not going to read through it again. But guess what? There's only a few people here today, and I'm about to drop a bombshell. The epistle that you read about in this chapter, you're only getting highlights of it. It is called the Diduche. The Diduche, that is a Greek word, and that means the teaching. The teaching. The what? Didgeridoo. Thanks, Shannon. Word of wisdom. Now, at the end of our entire teaching of the book of Acts, guess what? At the end of, when we finish Acts, Shannon's going into epileptic fit. At the end of the book of Acts, guess what? You're going to get one. And you know what it is? It's your epistle that assures other members of the community that you're all on the same page. The Diduke, in Greek, means the teaching. In other words, it's the teaching of the 12 apostles, as in early Netzarim treatise that dates back to the 1st century at the time of the apostles, believe it or not. The text, parts of which constitute the oldest surviving written Netzarim catechism, has 3 main sections dealing with ethics, ritual, such as water immersion, otherwise known as baptism, the Netzarim congregation structuring and functionality. One section is a summary of basic instruction about the Netzarim life to be taught to those who are preparing for immersion and congregational membership. So by the end of Acts, we will get one of these. Now the Catholic Church have jumped on it and they've made it all very Christian. So you can actually buy it on Amazon. What did the Catholics do wrong with it? What they usually do. So don't go on Amazon and buy the Diduke and say, look, I've already got it. We'll get you one that's translated without the words church and blah blah blah. But it is available in a printed format on Amazon.com. But if you want to get a Netzarim one, the one that's true, it was rediscovered in the 1800s and was basically originally all written on a scroll. And if you were sent with authority, you would walk around to the congregations and go up to the congregations and you would have that scroll with you. And it would have a seal from the Jerusalem Council in the era of James the Just, Yaakov HaTzadik. And that seal was you're legit. You know what, even if you're a bit dodgy, people are, this speaker's not very good. He is official. He's an official speaker sent from Jerusalem. Give me somebody that gets up here and is a bit dodgy. You know, they're not very confident or they're not real good at doing the presentation. But as long as they've got the credentials and they've officially been set over somebody who we don't know who it is and speaks, you know, very well, but will speak things that are incorrect. I don't want that second scenario. So there you go, so that's the Diduke. And after some days, Rav Shaul and Bernavi said, let's return and visit the brothers in Meshech throughout every city in which we proclaim the word of Yahweh and see how they're doing. What happens here? They have a disagreement. Guys, having disagreements is not something that just happened in the last 20 years with people in our fellowship. You're going to have disagreements. And I love the fact that this disagreement is in the Bible. I love it. So what happens is there was a disagreement over who they should bring with them, and Shaul took Rabbi Silas with him, and Bernavi took Marcus with him, and they went off to Cyprus. And Cyprus was originally where Rabbi Bernavi was born and where he grew up. But the Ruach HaKodesh worked in the situation that the other people that they teamed up with were very good in that they complemented Bernavi and Shaul. So the Ruach HaKodesh rolled with the punch, and went on their separation, he made them 2 powerful teams instead of 1 powerful team. So Baruch Hashem. And that's pretty much it. Are there any questions? I know that was a lot to take in. Listen, I'll just give you a quick rehash because what did we look at today? We looked at the Ger Hashar, the Ger Kashav, the Ger Hashar, and the Ger Zadik. We looked at, and I know I've been mentioning these 3 types of righteous Gentiles. You're probably sick of it, but this is the pinnacle of it today. You know, we don't want to not understand this anymore. We should come away having a good whole grasp on this. That no matter where a person is, if they don't look like they've got much knowledge or much understanding, if they're coming through this door and they're keeping basic principles, then there should be no other burden placed upon them. Now, we don't have to worry about the limbs of an animal and eating food sacrificed to idols generally. We do that. If you go to Thailand or any other country like that, they have a lot of places where they're shopping malls. But be careful when you go to a restaurant and you see an idol and it has fruit in front of it and incense being burnt. Now, what happens is, if you go, and Shannon and I have done this plenty of times, so, you know, not even smack on the head. If you pay for that meal, some of that money that they get in that restaurant will go to buying the fruit and the incense sticks that get burnt in front of that idol. So you are now a part of idol worship, because your hard-earned cash is going to support the upkeep of the worship of that demon behind that idol. If you go to a Taiwanese or a Filipino hairdresser, they'll have a little idol down on the floor with the fruit in front of it and the incense burning. If it's a place that does maybe a massage or something, you know, a proper one, not a dodgy one, they'll have it. You don't go there. You don't want your income being yoked together, Rose. So if you see if you see, now a lot of people say don't eat halal.
Yeah.
Halal food's got nothing to do with this. This is talking about food that, money that is accrued from a business. A portion of it, a tenth of that, is put to the side and pays for burning incense and offering food before an idol at the business of worship. That is what we've got to avoid like the plague. In terms of halal food, it is better to eat halal meat than it is to eat not kosher or normal meat that you just buy that's neither kosher or halal. Now the reason being that at least halal meat would have gone through some type of process of checking that it's alright. If it's neither kosher or halal, you get on the net and you look at the standards of the meat industry at the moment, and you're lucky you haven't been eating. Every time you eat meat, you're probably eating about 3 tumours that you don't even know about. It's just horrendous. So if you go to those Lebanese kebab shops, if it's a good one, there's probably a good chance it's okay. You know, they have the falafels and stuff like that. So you can get sick eating the meat on the spinners because they sit there all day, and sometimes if they turn off, they might get a little bit. If they stay on all day, they should be alright. If they're 2 days old, that's too dangerous. So that's why you'll get a loaf of bread with a halal symbol on it and with a kosher symbol on it, because the Muslim authorities have deemed that kosher food is acceptable as halal. But the Orthodox Rabbinate for the Kashrut organisation, they don't. They go, if it's halal, it's still not good enough for us. But because we don't, and that's true, they don't. But because we're scattered, we're Nazarenes, we're you know, if you wouldn't eat, some families wouldn't eat if they couldn't eat food that's just basic food. So what we do is we do the best we can. So if it's got a halal thing on it, that's fine. It's not, the Islamic faith isn't a faith where they have idols in it. If you go to a mosque, there's no idol at all in the mosque. It's a monotheist faith. So it's, and people say, well, they've said a blessing to Allah on it. Well, you just say a blessing to Yahweh on it. Yahweh's bigger than Allah, and you'll kick him out every time. What, is Allah bigger than Yahweh? Then send a blessing to Allah. You just bless it in the name of Yeshua. And bang, it's sorted. Come on. Who's bigger? So that's the deal with the idols. I hope that's sort of a bit clearer. But if you go to Thailand, rabbis just come back from Thailand when you get back from a while, you go into a shopping mall and they're just everywhere. You know, you can't go into a building pretty much that isn't full of some, and these images are images that are actually purposely built for worship. They're not Star Wars action figures. You know, they're not Lego. These are things that are built for the sole express purposes for worship. It's pretty scary. So there's no questions or comments. Rose, you don't have any questions or comments? Yes. Yeah. Let's go and look. Really?
Because for example, Filipinos all believe in circumcision. They all circumcise the babies. I don't even know if that is.
What I've said, like a mantra today almost, is that circumcision, you don't require circumcision to be saved. That's all I've said. Have you noticed that?
That's right.
You don't require circumcision to be saved. I've never said circumcision's bad. and there's no advantage in it. I've never said that. All I'm saying is to be saved. And so if you get nothing else out of what's said here today, you go away with the knowledge that I have a good understanding of what it takes to be saved. I'm going to build up my faith from there. Let's have a look. Come on, let's turn to the verse. You don't put... Now, what advantage? This is Romans 3:1. Let's read it together. What advantage has the Jew? What value is them being circumcised? Much in every way. In the first place, the Jews were entrusted with the very words of Elohim. If some of them were unfaithful, so what? Does their faithfulness cancel out Elohim's faithfulness? Heaven forbid. Elohim would be true even if every man were a liar. As the Tanakh says, so that you, Elohim, may be proved right in your words and win the verdict when you are put on trial. Now, if unrighteousness highlights Elohim's righteousness, what should we say? That Elohim is unrighteous to inflict his anger on us. I'm speaking here the way people commonly do, heaven forbid. Else, how could Elohim judge the world? But you say, if through my lie Elohim's truth is enhanced and brings him greater glory, why am I still judging merely for being a sinner? Indeed, why not say, as some people slander us for claiming we do say, let us do evil so that good may come of it. Against them the judgment is a just one. So are we Jews better off? Verse 8. Are we Jews better off? Not entirely. For I have already made the charge that all people, Jews and Gentiles alike, are controlled by sin. As the Tanakh puts it, there is no one righteous, not even one. No one understands, no one seeks Elohim, all have turned away and at the same time become useless. There is no one who shows kindness, not a single one. Their throats are an open grave, they use their tongues to deceive, vipers' venom is under their lips, their mouths are full of curses and bitterness, their feet rush to shed blood, in their ways are ruin and misery, the way of shalom they do not know. There is no fear of Elohim before their eyes. Moreover, we know that whatever the Torah says, it says to those living within the framework of the Torah, in order that every mouth may be stopped and the whole world be shown to deserve Elohim's adverse judgment. For in sight no one alive will be considered righteous on the ground of legalistic observance of the Torah commands. Because what Torah really does is show people how sinful they are. But now, quite apart from the Torah, Elohim's way of making people righteous in his sight has been made clear, although the Torah and the prophets give their witness to it as well, and it is righteousness that comes from Elohim through the faithfulness of Yeshua, the Messiah, to all who continue trusting. So it's interesting, because you'll kind of read the text and you'll go, okay, and then we'll go, okay, and what's happening? There's a balance happening, so instead of being over here or over here, by the end of the reading you should be in the middle, you should be in the narrow path, it should be a balanced narrow path. So while there is advantage in the circumcision, if one gets the circumcision, there's a danger that they then might relax a bit and go, well, I'm circumcised now, I can breathe a sigh of relief. If that's your motivation to getting circumcised, then that's the wrong motivation. So you're already complete, but the circumcision is a kind of an outward sign of that inner completeness that you've already had. Because you could die before you get the circumcision, and then you're going to be in turmoil. You're going to go down to Sheol. Yeah. And I agree. Yeah. Yes. Probably the most supportive thing I've said to what you're saying today has been one of the things I initially started with, and that was, nowhere in the scriptures does the commandment to circumcise your male child on the 8th day, nowhere is that nullified. So what is that telling people? That tells me that if everybody was observing the Torah, every mother that walks the face of the earth was observing Torah, they would have their 8th day child, male child circumcised, so it wouldn't be an issue. Yes. Yes. Yeah, I know. Yeah. You just don't want people going away the wrong idea. It's closeness to Elohim that's... I think what you want me to say is that there is a closeness to Elohim that you can achieve through circumcision of the heart, which is outwardly expressed in the act of physical circumcision, that you can achieve a very closeness to Elohim. Now, having said that, there is a closeness to Elohim that you can still have, like Titus, because Titus was never so... Why did they bring Titus with them? As an example of what they were talking about. They wanted to have a living example of who they're talking about with them. And here's one now. I prepared you one earlier. Here it is. You know, like those cooking shows. Here's Titus. So Titus never got circumcised. What happened with Shaul and Timothy? Timothy was circumcised, wasn't he, Shaman? Why? Because Shaul was going to go to places that were heavy with Jews. So he didn't want to offend them. He's going to the latrine, and all of a sudden they look across and go, oh my goodness, this guy's going to foreskin, what's happening? Yeah. Josh, off the table, please. Yeah. Yeah. We might continue. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Yeah. You're talking about Pesach, and we'll talk about that another time, but we're going to finish it. Yeah, no, that's true. And we'll continue the discussion over lunch. Richard and Marie, and anybody else, if you're still tuning in to Ustream, thank you for tuning in today. Shabbat Shalom, Shavua Tov, have a good week. We love you guys, we miss you guys. Brother Rob, if you're listening, we love you and we miss you. And we'll see you sooner rather than later, sooner the better. You guys have a fantastic Shabbat tomorrow, and we love you a long time. And Emma Marlene, Giordano has a message for Emma Marlene, yes?
Love you,
Please
Mom.
strengthen. Come on, Shem, get on, say a few words.
He's not even there. They're not... Where are they?
Go in front of the light. Sorry, Shannon just got this stage right. That's fine. You're on Ustream, yeah. I think we'll have to edit that bit out. I don't know how to do it. Alright. Bye, guys. Somebody's listening. We've got 3 viewers. See you guys.